Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining. This is going to be a hybrid session, and we are happy to start. Thank you very much. This is an opportunity for us to share. I'm going to change this. Thank you. The Resilient Planet Initiative and how it became an opportunity, a collaboration between Google and the champions and many different partners from the Race to Resilience to explore how can we better improve information that informs risk management and decision making. How can we best incorporate, elevate voices from solutions, from data needed, and access to opportunities and information for solution implementation of projects or even finance? How can we better blend these gaps that we have in regards of improving decision making with data that is not compatible among themselves? So today, the session that we're going to have is very much focused on an initiative that is starting to be created, is to bring as many actors as possible in this process. My name is Marcia Toledo. I am the Adaptation and Resilience Director for the Climate Champions team. And we're going to have a conversation with many different actors that can help shape this initiative. We will have an understanding of what is the benefits and the opportunities when we incorporate solutions, data, information from the local field. We will have understanding of improving data hubs, what are the benefits of it, and how we can better incorporate to improve decisions, and how as well a solutions platform that can very easily applicable showcase what is needed, how to accelerate adaptation and resilience locally. So it's my pleasure to welcome to the stage to Jeff Sternberg, who is a Technical Director, Sustainability Office of this CTO from Google Cloud, and as well Ramiro Fernandez, who is Director of Campaigns from the Climate Champions team, a member of our senior leadership team. I have a couple of questions for both of you. I think I'm ready. How did this collaboration with Google.com and .org start? And why are the champions so excited about this, Rama?
Is this working? Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining, and thanks for coming, Mitchell, and the collaboration with Google from our side. So just to understand why we as the high-level champions are so excited about this opportunity and collaboration, creating this platform and this space, it is the high-level champions back in 2020 already. They wanted to really highlight and enhance the role of adaptation within the action of non-state actors in this ecosystem. And that's why, with the support of Sheila, Salim, and many others, they launched a global campaign and put a common goal there, protecting 4 billion people by 2030. So the first part of this process was aligning the community under a shared goal. Then they proposed a metric framework for the campaign, and they proposed later the Sharm el-Sheikh adaptation agenda in partnership with the COP27 presidency, giving more granularity to which are the key systems and which are the key solutions that we need to move forward. So that has been the approach from the high-level champions, bringing the community of resilience together under a shared goal, proposing a metric framework, and suggesting specific targeted solutions to 2030. Now that we have reached already a critical mass of commitments from non-state actors, now is the time where we need to move into the next stage and enhance also the measuring and reporting of all that data. And that is where the collaboration and the effort set up this year with Google through the Google Sprints and Google Org supporting on that and helping us to think how we can, starting from scratch, use the benefits of technology to start analyzing and measuring that town adaptation and resilience in a global scale that can support and help all our partners on the impact that they're doing. This is why we want to bring this upfront. And I'm campaign director of both campaigns, Race to Zero and Race to Resilience. And I always do this parallel between mitigation and adaptation, and how we have already a whole infrastructure in place in mitigation with emission reductions and supporting, and how much we need to do that on adaptation. And I think starting to strengthening this global platform from that perspective, it will be a massive contribution to the ecosystem, and if we can show that digitally. So that is what is get excited, and the champions are always willing to engage the private sector and bring them on board, particularly on adaptation and resilience. So that's why.
Jeff, it's a similar question for you. Why is Google excited about these, and how does it build on what Google.com is doing and what Doodle.org is supporting? Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. So I am in the Google Cloud division within Google, and this is the, kind of the enterprise support services for Google. And so my journey with this organization started actually only just a few months ago. I'm based in New York City, and my day job is to help chief technology officers understand how to use cloud, and focusing on emerging technology themes that they're working on. We have identified over the last several years that sustainability is an emerging technology theme that every chief technology officer is focusing on. And this absolutely shows up in both mitigation and adaptation. Generally at Google, our sustainability strategy is kind of in three parts. Right? We have we're empowering individuals with everyday applications like Google Search, like Maps. If you've traveled on Google Flights, you might have seen kind of per seat carbon emissions estimates. So these tools are helping people kind of make sustainable choices in their everyday lives. In addition to that, we also are working together with partners. And this is where the cloud effort really comes in. Partners for us include, both the private sector and public sector organizations and NGOs. And that's why I'm here and why I really am leaning into supporting this effort. Adaptation is a technology challenge in many ways, in terms of bringing data together, in terms of understanding kind of very detailed sort of location-specific information. Flooding is obviously something that can happen over there, but not over there. And to understand these kinds of risks and the opportunities to add resilience, we need a detailed understanding of the world. And as you can imagine, Google's been doing that kind of technology for a while, so we see an opportunity to lend a hand there. Google.org is the philanthropic wing of Google, and they supported. When they reached out, actually, for asking for support in New York, I was like, I'm there. And so that's where I leaned in, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and for your collaboration during the past month, that we actually were able to undertake a sprint together with different focus groups and actors and partners to help shape this idea and start the beginning of an opportunity that can be completed in the next year. We'll welcome then Rama and Jeff to return to your seats while I invite Vaishali Jain to join us virtually. Vaishali is a design manager at Google Cloud, and she will introduce a video of the outcome of the sprint. The sprint was first to really focus how can we better enrich and help elevate the voices of the people that need the most this information, this data. And we are very much aligning to a Sharm el-Sheikh adaptation outcome target that deals with making risk information accessible. That is why it inspired us to start from the most needed, the front line type of users. So Vaishali, please.
Thank you so much, Marcia. Hello, everyone. My name is Vishali Jain, and I'm honored to be here today. Only 3 months ago, as Marcia was just indicating, my colleague Johannes Biersch and I co-facilitated a design sprint on behalf of Google.org. In partnership with Race to Resilience, we gathered 30 experts in New York, ranging from academia, environmental advocacy, engineering, disaster management, and we really just had a single goal: empower local leaders to better understand the impact of climate change in their community and help them identify solutions to reduce these impacts. Over just 3 short days, we engaged in a number of discussions and brainstorming activities, but our event began with a powerful focus group of 20 women leaders from East Africa. Their invaluable and unique perspective remain the foundation of the work you're about to see today. So without further delay, let me introduce this video crafted by a fellow Googler and participant in the sprint, Jason Perleka. My hope is that at the end of viewing this, we won't only know what we did during those 3 days, but also you'll start to feel like how you might be able to contribute to this critical initiative.
By 2030, everyone will be experiencing the impacts of climate change, with an estimated 4 billion people very vulnerable to these impacts, largely living in the global south. To mitigate the escalating climate crisis, we must reduce GHG emissions as rapidly as possible and keep global warming under 1.5 degrees for as long as possible. At the same time, we must empower those most affected to adapt to this changing reality and help them address the impacts of climate change when they occur. This requires access to comprehensive and actionable information about climate risks and solutions to build climate resilience. Currently, impact data and solution information are scattered across various sources, often inconsistent, incomplete, and not universally accessible. This lack of access to knowledge hinders effective adaptation and resilience building efforts. The Resilient Planet Initiative, an outcome of the HLC and Google Design Sprint, addresses this knowledge gap by consolidating impact data and solution information from multiple open sources. The Resilient Planet Initiative will have 3 building blocks: the Data Hub, Solutions Hub, and the Interface. It will help apply common standards to this essential information, making it accessible through tailored interfaces that consider individual user needs and local contexts. The Resilient Planet Initiative's technological backbone unites top scientists, real-time satellite data, and AI algorithms to enhance data completeness, accessibility, and robustness, empowering individuals, communities, and decision-makers to collectively navigate a changing planet. The interface is the essential element of the Resilient Planet Initiative, getting information and solutions to people so that they can take action to build a resilient planet and benefit themselves, their families, communities, and businesses. The interface will also facilitate the sharing of experiences in applying solutions, measuring impacts, and adapting to climate change. Community and user feedback informs the ongoing development of the Resilient Planet Initiative, ensuring it remains relevant and effective. The Resilient Planet Initiative is a collaborative effort spearheaded by partners who joined the Google-led New York Design Sprint, including climate risk and solution platforms like the Global Resilience Index, South-South, and grassroots platforms focused on locally led adaptation, including Spark and SDI, and Race to Resilience partners working on solutions including GRP, Climate KIC, Daraja, UNDRR, and IDF. The Resilient Planet Initiative is being developed in phases. For COP28, Phase 1 will have core functionality up and running, and for COP29, Phase 2 will have full user interface capability online. The Resilient Planet Initiative represents a significant step forward in our collective effort to reduce the impacts of climate change. By providing universal access to climate risk and solution information, we empower communities, businesses, and governments to make informed decisions, build resilience, and safeguard our planet for future generations. We now invite all partners to join us in the development and implementation of the Resilient Planet Initiative. This is an umbrella to bring us all together to achieve a resilient planet, so we're looking for partners to join us who are working on collecting and sharing data on climate risks and hazards, identifying and sharing solutions to build climate resilience and adapt to the impacts of climate change, and getting knowledge on solutions and risks in an accessible format and timely way to people and communities, cities, and businesses.
So with that, Marcia, I hand it back to you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Vashali. And what an excellent video that summarizes the opportunity that we have at hand, especially that everything is really at the earliest stage and we can identify the best way that articulates with existing platforms, with existing databases, and with existing opportunities where we can elevate the local voices and the accessibility of information for managing the risk of climate change. And we wanted on purpose to start from the opportunity to listen to the real actors. That's why the beginning of this story is on that interface, on that opportunity to bring and elevate and capture and channel those voices, solutions, ideas, or requests for information from the bottom up. However, important now is as well to give a space to an opportunity of a formal launch of a resilient Planet Data Hub. We recognize that managing information and making compatible different sorts of data is not yet at the level that it can be. We need data providers, solutions providers, project developers, connectors, many different types of actors to make that work. And especially, this type of initiative will benefit a wide range of users, communities, businesses, city leaders, financiers, everyone. And in that sense, it's my pleasure to invite Michel Lies, Chairman of Zurich Insurance, an insurance development firm steer committee chair, to discuss the importance of data and formally launch the Data Hub. Michel, please.
Thank you very much, Marcia, and it's very nice to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me to be with you. Greater risk awareness is the first step in terms of enabling communities and business to manage risk more effectively and build resilience. You need to know what you speak about. Having greater risk awareness involves leveraging advanced technology, data analytics and scientific research to enhance risk evaluation and pricing models. It also provides access to data. The IDF has been leading the development of pioneering global public goods that leverage both public and private sector capabilities. One of these goods is the Global Resilience Index Initiative, GRII, launched at COP26 in Glasgow. The Global Resilience Index Initiative provides reference data on climate and natural hazard risk to inform and protect population and economies, particularly in emerging and developing countries. This essential information is open and accessible to all now, using shared standards and consistent metrics at local to global scales. Until now, this data has remained unavailable, inaccessible, and inconsistent, even in developed countries. With this launch of the Resilience Planet Data Hub, the GRII transitions from a development project to an operational service. What we are seeing today has been the result of 2 years of close teamwork, particularly in partnership with UNDRR and the University of Oxford. We see an increasing demand from governments, banks, investors, and standard setters for standardized and consistent data, risk data. The GRII offers institutions a means to measure the value of resilience across people, planet, and prosperity. It also provides tools and guidance for physical climate risk disclosure to sit alongside carbon emission reporting. We are very pleased to be collaborating with the high-level champions team to provide access to these indispensable data and meet the increasing demand for uniformed risk data under the umbrella of the Resilience Planet Hub. The broad Resilience Planet initiative will eventually be directly relevant to citizens, but I would particularly like to speak of its relevance at the institutional and policy level. These are the big levers And at these levels, risk assessment and pricing are critical tools for unlocking finance into adaptation and resilience. Can you imagine once that rating agency, when they come to sovereign rating, will include resilience element? So we won't speak anymore of just a snapshot of a financial situation, which may be fantastically fragile, but we will speak about also the resilience of these financial snapshots. The use cases are absolutely clear, and that will make probably Resilience Initiative extremely transparent. Let us now work together to unlock the full benefit of this tremendous effort and secure the adoption by us, a group that can really benefit from the risk data. Thank you again to the UNED Climate Champions team and to all the partners involved, and I look forward to seeing how the Resilient Planet Data App and the Global Resilience Index are applied. Marcia, back to you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to Nicola Ranger. She is joining us virtually. Nicola, are you there? Please, if you could
I'm here.
introduce yourself. Super.
Hello,
Thank
good
you so
afternoon.
much.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you all. Wonderful. So I'm going to have the pleasure now of talking a little bit more detail about the Resilient Planet Data Hub. Do you have my slides there in Dubai?
One second, Nicola. Thank you very much.
Well, while we bring those up, let me just tell you about why this is such an exciting initiative, and also to thank colleagues again, both at the High Level Champions, but also very much our colleagues at Google for hosting us back at New York Climate Week, because the idea for this really came out of that convening, and as Vishali said, very much out of that need that we heard, very acute need from communities in emerging and developing economies, and that's really what this is for. And really about, I think what's so exciting in this initiative is that sort of connection between local needs, but also these big global actors as well. So through a shared understanding of risk, being able to connect the need also to that opportunity to mobilize both action and finance at a national scale and a global scale to really support communities around the world to adapt to climate change. So if we go to the next slide, please. Excellent. So what I'm going to show you here very, very briefly is really just a starting point. And we really want to emphasize that we see this as a shared effort. So I'm one of the co-chairs of the Global Resilience Index initiative that's been introduced. And really through the new Resilient Planet Hub, we're giving all of that data, all of that knowledge that we've gathered over the last 2 years since the launch at COP26 to this new initiative, but very much see that as a starting point. So the whole idea here is to make available best-in-class science, evidence from satellite data, AI, modeling, all on a shared platform in a consistent way globally, so that wherever you are in the world, you can get the information that you need about what are the key risks to me related to climate and also nature as well, and what are the key vulnerabilities and where are the key opportunities for adaptation. So that's the vision of this. It's really that sort of underpinning, enabling data set, that sort of powerhouse that can support both communities, but also the big institutional actors and governments as well, to really understand this is what we need to adapt. These are the key risks we need to adapt to, and be able to facilitate through this data the development of these plans, identifying solutions to really help manage those risks, both from climate, but also nature as well. And I'll talk more about that. So what we have at the moment, and what you can see here, is an existing platform which already allows you to interrogate all of that data that's available, the key hazards, flood, drought, etc., key exposures of local communities, hospitals, schools to different risks, and also the key nature related, so natural capital, where are you exposed to the erosion of that natural capital? So have all of that on one platform. So that's really the starting point to be able to start analysing these risks. If we go to the next slide, please. As I said, I keep talking about nature as well, because what's really exciting about this, the new Resilient Planet Hub, is the link between people, planet, and prosperity. So it brings together an understanding both of the social vulnerabilities, the needs, with the nature aspect. Obviously, nature is a really important part of vulnerability, but also a really important opportunity through nature-based solutions with climate-related risks and adaptation opportunities as well, all on one platform to allow users to start to assess, this is what we need to do, these are the people that we need to be working with, and actually have that shared understanding across different scales. We go to the next slide, please. So one of the things that we've been doing over the last 2 years, and again, sort of bringing this knowledge into this new collaboration, is particularly working with financial institutions. So I'm sure you've heard earlier in the week, the adaptation financing gap is huge. 366 billion a year needs to be mobilized globally to support these needs. And what we've been doing over the last two years is working with financial institutions to see what kind of data do you need to be helping to mobilize more investment in this area. And one of the examples of this, which I've shown here, is on infrastructure. So infrastructure is a really important part of adaptation. It powers jobs, it powers growth, enables communities to get to markets to sell their goods. So it's absolutely critical that every piece of infrastructure that we build now is resilient to climate change. And so we provide tools as part of this new data hub to allow people to interrogate where are there resiliency needs that need investment, and to be having that dialogue again between governments, financial institutions, on communities, on how do we set the plans and mobilize the finance to do this. And if we go to the next slide, please. So we've been doing this work across a whole range of sectors, looking at the water sector, transport, looking at agricultural systems, schools, hospitals, but the other really important one that I mentioned is nature-based solutions. So nature-based solutions are a really important adaptation to climate change, and one where we really struggle in terms of getting the data that we need to identify where we need to support, where can we have the opportunities through investing in nature-based solutions. So as part of this new platform, we're making all that data available to help both governments, communities, and investors to look at where can nature-based solutions really support adaptation, and how do we get investment into those areas. And I've shown here an example of work we're doing in Bangladesh with the Global Centre on Adaptation on that. Go to the next slide, please. Great. And I'll finish there, but one of the other really important applications of this as well is to humanitarian issues. So we can use this data not just for resilience, but also to understand where are those people most at risk if a big drought is coming or a big typhoon, to really help them plan. So this is really being used by humanitarian responders as well. And that's one of the reasons why the collaboration with UNDRR is so important. And I'll hand back to you in the room.
Thank you very much. Nicola, Dr. Nicola Ranger is the Executive Director of Oxford Martin Systemic Resilience Program, Leader Resilience and International Development Program, and Environmental Change Institute. Extremely exciting to have the opportunity to work together over the past months, Nicola, and that to see already how GRII is evolving to an opportunity to have this data hub that can continue to serve in that sense and bring information that help mobilize adaptation finance, as you mentioned, for resilient infrastructure, for nature-based solutions, and especially humanitarian early action. So thank you very much for that. I will now invite Michel to return to his seat, and I'm happy to invite new speakers in the front. If I can please have Ekoshui Ida Hen, he's Secretary General for Insurance Development Forum. Ekoshui, pleasure to see you. And Carlos Uribe, who is a Risk Knowledge Program Officer from UNDRR. And I'm curious to hear from you the importance of open climate and nature risk analytics. And how could you share your experience and expectations as well of these data hub to continue to evolve? So turning to you, Ekoshue, to the private sector and the finance sector in particular, how can we accelerate progress towards more resilient world by bringing in more data and solutions from private sector?
Thank you very much, Marcia. And just to say congratulations to the Climate Champions team for really pulling together this incredible effort. So obviously I'm with the Insurance Development Forum, and we've obviously been backers of the Global Resilience Index initiative. We supported its launch, as was said earlier, in Glasgow with the support of Mark Carney, Eric Anderson, and Mami Muzuturi from UNDRR. So from our perspective, as Michelle said, risk information is important. If we are serious in terms of tackling the climate crisis, driving finance into resilience and adaptation, then we need to do a much better job of understanding that risk so that we can communicate it, but also influence where capital flows. From an insurance perspective, insurers deal with risk, right? And so what you've seen Nicola present is also part of the capabilities that have been developed over many years to support the provision of risk information that people, corporates, countries are exposed to, but importantly, to inform the design of solutions that are needed. So from our perspective, there is an important element of this that is focused on the communication of risk, well, the awareness of risk, the communication of risk, but also using that to inform the flow of financing. So for us, it's really great to be part of this venture where we can have a multiplicity of tools, better coordination, consistency, work on interoperability, open standards, so that this information can be more accessible to more people, communities around the world, and have the impact that we need to see. So from an insurance industry perspective, as I said, this is an important venture. We have been undertaking as an institution a number of activities within the risk modeling, risk analytics space. We have a partnership with the V20 countries, 58 of the most vulnerable countries, where we use tools, such as you have seen, to engage with those countries to address their needs. And so for us, the launch of this program is just an extension of what the industry does on a day-to-day basis with its clients, but also really finding ways to work with the public sector, the climate change process, to accelerate and do more, given what we are seeing and the urgent context around the impacts of climate change.
Thank you very much, Ekoshue. And now turning to Carlos. How can we bring in more data from the humanitarian side? Who are the data providers here we need to bring in?
Thank you, Marcia. Happy to see you and to see familiar faces. We started this morning with sessions here, and one of the key elements is some strategic associations, because we are not the only ones working in data collection, data analysis. So one of the key points to have more data, useful data, and for us, from our point of view, is the use of this data. It's not the collecting and analyzing, but it's making this usable in the good format, in the good way for decision maker, particularly at different levels. So strategic association of organizations collecting data is one of them. Then having also final users, because we need to respond to a need of information. So having this specific is not only collecting data for collecting data, we need to respond to those specific needs. Strategic association with academia and research institutes. One of the key elements is we have a lot of information, tools coming from this side, but we need also to put a kind of a translation machine in this, having this information in the right format, as I was saying at the beginning. Including non-traditional data and non-traditional knowledge also. We don't need more data, we need to collect the data better. One of the key elements that the UNDR is pushing is the creation of the National Disaster Reduction Strategy with a focus on the definition of a data collection strategy. This data collection strategy needs also to associate the national statistics offices that have a clear mandate to collect official statistics. One of the good examples was presented this morning by Animesh Kumar through the Sendai Framework Monitoring Tool, where we are collecting official statistics that are coming from the government, but we need to have a wider platform collaborating, collect this data, and having also the official entities associated to this. One more key element is also trying to integrate in different kind of data collection system, but the loss and damages databases we have so far. We have been working in rapid onset events, but the integration, there is a big gap between rapid onset events and slow onset events, particularly for economic losses linked to climatic effects. So reaching this gap is very important. I'll stop here.
Yes. Thank you very much, both Ekushue and Carlos, especially for showcasing that the example that the contributions that GRI brought in and was launched in COP26 is already evolving and growing and has a potential to offer even more now. So this is very valuable as well to embrace. And as well, Carlos, for highlighting that it is important about data, but also how can we diversify the type of information that is informing action and opportunities for decision making, especially by allowing or channeling the voices, the specific experiences and perspective of many different actors, and not necessarily only rely on data, satellite data type of information. So thank you very much for your contributions. And now we'll invite both Ekushue and Carlos to return to their seats, and I'm very happy to invite Jasper Hornberg from the Global Resilience Partnership and Sheila Patel. She's founder of Spark, co-chair of Catalyst 2030, to discuss with us about the opportunity of developing this initiative, developing the Resilient Planet, Hub and Exchange. No problem. And it's excellent that we have started to put this initiative together with the launch of the Data Hub. And we will need definitely 3 important elements. Now, the Data Hub, the solutions hub, and the exchange or interface, or the opportunity to really connect with actors on the ground. So, Jasper, great that we have the data on climate risk and hazards, but how do we build the solutions hub? What partners do we need for doing this?
Well, thank you very much. It's interesting to come at the end of this, or I think we're at the tail end of this, after all these excellent speakers. A lot of the players that need to be involved, I think, are involved. And just to highlight one thing, the projects, the solutions, the implementers, the entrepreneurs that are trying to do different things, they are needed. We have a fair bit of academia involved. I think that's very useful. We've talked about risk. I would add another risk, which is risk that leads to cost of capital. And cost of capital is expensive in the developing world. So maybe if you can change the perception of risk, you can reduce the cost of that capital, and you can do more with the resources that you have. It also could potentially actually reduce the vulnerability, because high cost of capital leads to increased vulnerability. And the same thing for insurance. A high premium makes it more difficult to get that insurance, and it leaves you at risk. So I think, I mean, at the Global Resilience Partnership and through our partnership with, I'm not going to say anything she will say now, but we have a vast network of project implementers, of entrepreneurs, of solutions. We've done this for many years. And I think to include those into this is critical, because otherwise it's going to be a bit top-down. And I don't feel this is top-down at all. I think it's very inclusive. Amazing, amazing platform.
Thank you very much, Jasper. And it's my then pleasure to ask you, Sheila, a very important question. So we have the data and we have the solutions, but how do we build that interchange with the real actors on the ground? What partners do we need for this?
So first, you don't have all the data. I can tell you that there are so many people under the radar of all the official data that remain invisible, uninformed, and illegal in the present context, and therefore unassisted. So you have a whole network of social movements developed by Catalyst 2030 and a whole lot of southern groups that are trying to shine a light on those constituencies that we bundle together as 1 billion, so many billions, as the ones who are not in your insurance radar, who governments like to stay uninformed about because it's convenient, and for whom there is no category in which they fit. So if I talk to insurers and say, it might actually be better to help a woman to get her home resilient than to wait for her house to get destroyed. And they say, oh, one is adaptation and one is loss and damage. So we are going back to our silos and back to our processes. And the fact of the matter is that, and I speak about cities because that's where I work, in the global south, 40% of all people who live in the city, on an average, live informally and illegally. There is no good data about them. Nobody is there to help them because they don't fulfill building standards. They are self-built homes. They are constantly refurbished. And so one of the things, to give you an example of why I'm here, is we are going to get community women to produce data that helps them assess the resilience index of their homes in order to look at ways by which we can share this data with a range of people in order to make them look like a worthwhile market for businesses, financial institutions, material providers, educational institutions, see them as a constituency worth working with. And for me, what this sprint has done, I love this word, sprint has done, is it has produced an architecture in which we become partners and not victims and recipients. We will contribute, we hope, and that's why I bought this. We've begun to develop a whole strategy by which we produce detailed data of every aspect of a poor, humble home and build the capacities of women to do that. And then we look at what this aggregation tells. And it's unfortunate that my friend, the champion of this campaign, Christine, who brought all those women from Kenya for our discussion, is not here. She was here till yesterday. And she has put together women from 22 cities in Kenya to say the next campaign for Roof Over Our Heads is in Kenya. We're going to look at this. We're going to produce data, and you guys better know what to do with it. So we are going to come to you to say, you better help me sort this out, because we can produce fabulous data, but it must work for them. And I think that's the important element of the architecture of this process that I really celebrate, which is we are all partners. We don't get diminished because where we come from. And there are a whole bunch of networks of farmers, of marginal farmers, of waste pickers, caregivers, of health workers. My friend Mark is sitting here, Darja. We are all looking for ways by which we become able to utilize the data that we produce, but also help others to understand that. And so I think the important thing for me is create an architecture of a process in which there is no exclusion. Because there's too much exclusion now. You're not entitled to this because. this won't work for you because. So if we don't create something which works for the bottom 50%, then you're doing what we are doing is business as usual. You create cities for good investment, produce all kinds of things, the top 50%, but not for the bottom 50%. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jasper, for reflecting that this is a process that intends not to duplicate platforms or solutions platforms, but mostly to articulate and embrace and coordinate with others, so very inclusive. And also thank you, Sheila, for giving us the reality check that we started this exercise by understanding what real actors on the ground need. And we finished this discussion by recognizing we're still not reaching them, and they need to be at the center of the data hub, the platform of solutions, and this initiative. Appreciate very much your encouragement that we think outside of our boxes, and then we put them first in the design of this Resilience Planet initiative. And with that, I would like to invite you to return to your seats and welcome David Howlett, who's going to give closing remarks.
Thank you, Marcia. I think I've now got 15 minutes for closing remarks, so I won't use those all 15 minutes. You'll be rude. And I think it's probably nice we've had it really on time and some excellent discussions. I know we've lots of jumping up and down. Anyway, can I have the next? There is another slide, so if we can have that up. One important point, and again, thank you, Michelle, for your presentation. It's how do we democratize the data so that the data can be used by financiers, city mayors, and the people that Sheila was talking about. We all need data in different ways, and we also, as Jasper said, we also need solutions to. As soon as we have a risk, we need to do something about it. We don't wait for the risk to occur. So I think there's a real opportunity in what we've started with Google.org and Google.com, and many of you in this room. And you know, this is Johannes who co-led the sprint. He said, David, what's this event about? And he said, well, it's a marketing event. I'm come from the public sector. I'm not used to sort of that marketing. But what we're asking for is that data providers, solution providers, tech companies, and connectors to come and join us. And we'll be sitting down with our colleagues from Google, both the .com and .org. And I've learned a lot about Google. I always just thought it was this thing on your phone and Google Docs, where you can sometimes you could find the document, sometimes you can't find the document. But really, just again, just a big thanks to everybody for coming, everybody online. And if you're still on your phones, I'm hoping it's because you're sending me an email to say you want to join us, not WhatsApping your friends or your colleagues, or you're late for this meeting. Where am I going to go for dinner tonight? And Jeff, you'll be interested to know we're going back to the Greek Taverna for our team dinner, which we had a meeting with Google, ended up in a Greek Taverna. At the end, we had Greek dancing, and we're still trying to think about how to talk about data and solutions. So just a big thanks, but a big ask, come and join us, because I think the time has come, and the champions, you know, we're Umbrella, bringing people together. No one's told me that this is a silly idea. They just say, oh, so-and-so is doing it over here. Well, we need to bring them in. And again, when we looked at the platforms, we looked at 96 platforms, 3 things which occurred. 1, you needed to know that the platform existed so you could go to it. 2, when you got there, you needed a technical understanding, sometimes a master's or a doctorate. And 3, I'm lucky because I'm British, so I can sort of speak English and read English. But nearly everything is in English, with a few other languages, obviously, as well. But it's how do we bring this information and data to people to make effective decisions, whether you're deciding on a $500 million investment or whether you're going to put $100 or $50 to make your house more secure. So thank you, and do stay to network a bit, and thank you to Marcia. I know it's been a difficult day for you, but many thanks for coming to moderate this. So thank you, everybody. And thanks to Vasilia and Nicola online. We're waving at you guys, but you can wave back. Okay, thank you very much.